we can now bring in Sergei Petrovic, former Ukrainian Deputy Minister of Justice and European Integration. Thank you very much for joining us here on France 24. Are you hopeful about the negotiations that are currently taking place between the Ukrainian side and the Russians in Belarus?
I don't think anyone in Ukraine expects much from these negotiations because we know the Russian position, which is pretty much saying that we have to capitulate. And this is definitely not accepted by anyone here. I think Ukrainians are having high morale and are ready to continue defending our country. And our way of approaching this negotiation is that Russia should stop aggression straight away and get their troops out of Ukraine. Well, at least those that are still alive. It seems that at this point of time, this is not something that Putin is prepared to do, because that would mean a complete failure for him. That would mean that he will lose his power in Russia domestically. So I'm sure that we will see more of different types of talks until we see the Ukrainian prevalence on the ground become evident to everyone in Russia itself.
Today we had Ukraine's president who has asked for fast track to EU membership. Do you think Vladimir Putin has shot himself in the foot and underestimated how, firstly, Ukraine would do in his invasion? The fact that the resistance has been pretty fierce and they haven't taken control of any of the main cities yet, and also how the proximity Ukraine would have to Europe and to NATO.
Absolutely. Look, I mean, he wanted a beautiful little war, to be ended within hours with Kiev capitulating. This never happened. This never came true. There are no Ukrainians waving Russian flags and meeting Russian tanks on the streets. And also, he had underestimated the European response. I mean, we see a dramatic change in the EU position. EU is financing the arms for Ukraine. We've seen Germany saying that they're going to be a militarized nation. They are investing extra 100 billion euros this year. So I think Putin has just miscalculated about anything about the whole situation. I think he managed to isolate Russia, within a couple of days from all over the world. I mean, they literally cannot fly out of their country. They literally cannot trade. They literally have no support in the civilized world. And I think that is the main outcome of this war already. And that's why I think he already lost this war.
I want to ask you about the European response, because the EU was pretty slow to respond in the first day of the war. We saw that they were slow to kick Russian banks out of the SWIFT banking system. But over the weekend, it seemed to have ramped up its response in terms of blocking Russian carriers from European airspace, etc. What do you make of the European response? Because on the first day, Ukrainians felt alone.
Yeah, I think EU has been always catching up with the new security threats presented by Russia. I think at this point it makes sense for EU to do more to stop future raising of stakes by Putin. I think everybody is here welcome to hear Ursula von der Leyen saying that Ukraine will become an EU member sometimes in the future. I just think that this sometime should come this year exactly.
I just want to jump in there for argument's sake. Let's just say at these discussions which are taking place right now, the Russians come and say, okay, we'll stop with this invasion of Ukraine provided we get guarantees of your non-aligned status. Is that something the Ukrainians could entertain?
Well, look. At first, no one trusts Putin. I mean, whatever he says will not be trusted by anyone in Ukraine. So I don't think his word is worth anything. I think that it either has to be guarantees from other third parties and third states. It has to be a physical removal of his troops from all the territory of Ukraine. And at this point, I don't think anyone is happy about a neutral status. It means nothing to us. That means being exposed to Russian aggression at any point of time. So I just can't see this happening. I can't see this being accepted by Ukrainians. I mean, we're not stupid. We've seen Russia signing a Budapest Memorandum in 1994 guaranteeing Ukrainian independence and sovereignty, and then blatantly violating it in 2014 and again this year. Again, I don't think anyone trusts anything that Russians or Putin would say, or even put in writing. We know that any treaty signed by Russia is not worth the paper it's written on.
We'll see how the negotiations developed. We're going to have to leave it there, Sergei Petukov. Thank you very much for joining us on the program today.